Good afternoon, boys and girls. My name is Mr. Phillips, and I work for the Oneida Indian Nation. And I do a lot of school visits, schools like this, to talk about my native culture, to talk about some of the things you've learned. I want to show you a whole bunch of things that maybe you talked about in your class. And I know there'll be a lot of questions, and we'll save them until the end. I'm trying to give myself some time at the end to ask your questions, because I know you got a lot of questions when I'm talking. But there will be questions I ask along the way. Really important that you raise your hand so I can recognize. It just goes a lot easier because there's so many of you in here. Okay? So again, my name is Mr. Phillips, and I'm a retired 6th grade teacher from Oneida. I taught Oneida for 34 years. I also worked with the Oneida Police Department for 11 years as a chaplain, and I've been with the United Nations since then. So I seem like I'm working forever, but that's okay. But I like to come here and talk about Native things. And what I like to start out with and ask you, raise your hand. Tell me some things you've learned about Native Americans. Raise your hand, tell me some things. Go, nice and loud.
They live in longhouses.
Awesome, what else?
They use beaver skins for clothes.
Skins for clothes, good.
There were 6 nations.
Awesome, 6 nations. You guys are good stuff. Go ahead.
I forgot what.
That's okay. What else?
Longhouses.
They lived in longhouses. Anything else? Yes? Well, go ahead first.
They have like some of the Native Americans wear necklaces with eagle claws.
Yes, very good.
They use wampum.
Wampum, good. You guys have talked about anything else? Go ahead.
There was war.
They had wars back then, right? Very, very good. Go ahead. Say again?
They traded with the French.
They traded with the French and the Brits. Very, very good. Go ahead. That's okay. You forget. That's all right. Go ahead.
They use wampum hills for peace.
Very good. What else?
Stuff for weapons.
They use different things for weapons. Good. That's a lot of information. So I'm going to show you some things and talk about things. Now, there are a lot of Indian tribes in the United States. Someone want to guess how many Indian tribes there are in the United States and Canada? Just a couple of guesses. The United States and Canada, total number of Indian tribes. Go.
7.
7? 8? 6? 8?
5.
One more? Over 550. Over 550 Indian tribes across the United States and Canada, and they're all different because of what's outside. The environment tells you how the tribes live. Their houses are different because of what's outside. Their clothing is different because of what's outside, and their food is different because of what's outside. I've been to visits out west to see Western Native tribes. They live very, very different than where we live here. Now, where we live here, there are 6 tribes in Central. Anyone know what those 6 tribes are, or some of them? Go ahead. That's okay. We can get you help.
Onondaga, Cayuga, Tuscarora, Seneca.
2 more. Need help? Oneida. One more. Mohawk. I used to teach. It's a made-up word. It's called Scoom, S-C-O-O-M. It's from west to east. Seneca, Cayuga, Onondaga, Oneida, and Mohawk. And the Tuscaroras joined us later in the 1700s. And those tribes, they had a name for all those tribes. Does anyone know what that name was? What was that name? Haudenosaunee. Good. There's another word. Have you ever heard the word Iroquois?
Yeah.
Do you know what that word means? What?
Snakes.
Snake people. We were at war with another tribe called the Algonquin, and they didn't like us. They called us Iroquois, which means rattlesnake people. But we prefer the word Haudenosaunee because it means people of the longhouse, okay? And our longhouses look different. This is kind of how they looked a long time ago. I'll carry this as long as I can. This is like one being made. They took saplings, they turned them, and they tied them together, and they would put bark on the outside of them. And this down here would be where you would sleep. There would be another one up here on where you would store things. There was one door in the front and one door in the back, and they faced west to east for a reason. Something happens every day, west and east, that would help them. What do you think that might be? It happens every day. What? The sun comes up in the east, goes down in the west, so it lets light in, because there's no windows here. But there were holes in the roof of the longhouse. Why do you think there would be holes in the roof of a longhouse?
Because they put campfires in there.
Because there were fires in there, right? And if you look in this one, there are 3 places for a fire in this one. There are 3 reasons to have a fire in a longhouse. What do you think those reasons were? 3 reasons. What's one reason to have a fire in a longhouse? What's one? Warmth, good. What's another one? Go. Food, what's the third one? Light, perfect. Warmth, food, and light. There's the three reasons they have a fire in a longhouse, all right? And that's how they live. The longhouses, I live in Oneida, which is where the United Nations is from. Lots of villages around us where they used to be. Longhouses were probably 30 or 40 yards long. And they got longer when the family got bigger. We found one in a town called Stockbridge that was 100 yards long as a football field. It's incredible. And it's interesting about the longhouses is they're all based on what we call clans. Did you talk about the clans at all? Who can tell me what the three main clans are? Who knows? Go ahead. Bear is one. Wolf is another one. There is a beaver clan. In the night there's bear, wolf, and there's one more. It's my family's clan. It's called the Turtle Clan. All right? So let's do this. I like to do this. A long time ago, before I do that, in all the tribes across the country, they all have a different language. There's not one Indian language across the country. And even in the 6 tribes here, all the languages are different. Oneida is different than Mohawk. It's different than Cayuga. If a Cayuga person came in and talked to an Oneida person, wouldn't have any idea what they're saying. One of the things I like to do is to teach a little language when I come to schools. So I'm going to teach you some Oneida language. And when I'm done after 35, I'm going to see who remembers a couple of the words. If I were to come in and say hello, or you were to say hello, Mr. Phillips, it would sound like this. Saguli, Mr. Phillips. Can you say Saguli, Mr. Phillips? Saguli, Mr. Phillips. Perfect. If I were leaving, you would say Nongitwa, Mr. Phillips. Say Nongitwa. Nongitwa. That's goodbye. Our word for thank you is simply yao. Yao. Our word for you're welcome is nio. All right, and our words mean different than English words than like chair or desk. Our words are bigger. You know what a moose is, right? Yeah. Our word for a moose is skutneus. It means he has a big nose. Does a moose have a big nose? Yeah. That's why it's called that. Our word for January, you don't have to say this one, it's diagahundiax, but our word for January translates to someone's ears are freezing off. So the words mean a lot more than English words. And that's our language is so hard to remember. In fact, there are 3 Oneida tribes. There's one down the road, there's one in Wisconsin, and there's one in Canada. And of all 3 of those tribes, there's less than 25 people that can speak the language anymore. And they're all elderly. So one of my jobs that I'm at is I'm trying to help save the language, all right, and keep it. So now the language looks a little different. It looks like this. This is the word Oneida in the Oneida language pronounced Onyataag. It means people of the standing stone. These are the 3 clans. What's this guy right here? It's pronounced Atnowal. That's my family's clan. This is it's pronounced Dahun. Looks like it starts with a T, but our T's are D's. So Dahun. And what's that? It's pronounced Okwal. Say it. Okwal. Dahun, Atnowal, Onyataag, Saguli, Nongitwa, Yao, Neo. When I'm done in about 30 minutes, I'm going to say, who remembers how to say hello, Mr. Phillips? It's simply Saguli, Mr. Phillips. After 30 minutes, you're going to realize you don't remember it. But we'll try, okay? So that's what the language looks like. Now, if a native person were to come out of the woods around here, let's say 200 years ago, what do you think they would have looked like? Imagine 200 years, what do you think they would have looked like? What do you think? They would have had some kind of headdress, right? What else would they look like? Go ahead.
Like ripped clothes because they were walking in the woods.
Maybe ripped clothing, good.
And wear moccasins.
Moccasins, good. What else?
Like not good shoes.
Probably not good. Certainly not dressed like us, right? 200 years ago? What do you think their clothes wouldn't have come from Walmart 200 years ago? Where did their clothes come from? Animal skins. Now someone mentioned a headdress. Do you think that the headdresses looked like this?
Yeah.
Well, actually, not for here. No, this is a Western chief's headdress. I won't even put this on because I'm not a Western tribe, nor am I a chief. But the reason why this is special is if you watch enough movies, you always see these as a headdress. But what's special about these would be all eagle feathers. The most important thing a native person can get in life is an eagle feather because it's the greatest of our winged animals, and we believe the eagle takes our prayers to the Creator, to God. In order to get an eagle feather, you have to do something special for the tribe. You maybe save someone's life or help someone in some special way, and then a man would get an eagle feather to remember that. Now, when he gets older, his friends would come around and make him this headdress, and every feather in this headdress is a story from his life. So his grandkids come up and say, Grandpa, what is this one? Well, let me tell you what this one, let me tell you what I did here. That's why at Halloween time, we're not crazy about people dressing up as native people and wearing this, because it's not your story. Does that make sense? But we didn't wear these. We wore this. This is called a gustoe. Say gustoe. Gustoe. These would be turkey feathers down here. These would be eagle feathers on top. Any male can wear a gustoe. It don't have to be a chief in the Haudenosaunee people. So if I were to wear one at a ceremony or a wedding, I can wear this. Old or young, I have a little 3-year-old grandson that I made a little gustoe for. He doesn't wear it, but he could. Now these are eagle feathers, and where these feathers are tell you what tribe we're from. 2 feathers up, 1 feather down tells you it's from Oneida. My grandfather was Mohawk, would have been 3 feathers up. And these are all turkey feathers down here. I've made a couple of stories. These are kind of fluffy here, and to make those, you would think if you had a feather, that would be hard to stick out, but we actually take them apart like this. I'm not sure I'm as good at this as I used to be. We pull off the feather like this, and then we tie them together in bunches so we can have my gustoe there. So a lot of our crafts and things that we made were handmade. Let's go back for a second. Let's talk about, who do you think the most important person in the tribe was? Who was the most important person in the tribe? Go. Chief. We think the chief, but no. Who? Who? The mother. The women were the most important people in the tribe. Different than everyone ever thought in the world. In fact, not just the women, but the oldest woman, they had a name for her. They had a name for her. Clan mother. She was a clan mother. My grandmother was a Turtle Clan mother. My great aunt was a Turtle Clan mother. They were important. What made women so important back then? What do you think?
They was cooking the meals.
They cooked. Good. What else?
They cropped the food.
They took care of the crops. Good. What else?
They picked the chiefs.
They picked the chiefs. And if they didn't like them, they could remove them. The women had great power back then. What else?
They made clothes.
They made clothes. Awesome.
They helped with the crops.
They help with the crops.
They take care of the children.
They take care of the children, and they're one awfully close to that. They grow crops. They teach the children. They had the children. They're called givers of life. Without givers of life, there's no tribe. You got to have the children, all right? So the women were in charge. In fact, they were so important that whatever clan the mother was, that's what the children were. Like my family is Turtle Clan. My wife's not native, but let's say she was Bear Clan. And we got married, and my children would all be Bear Clan. They would no longer be Turtle Clan. And they would go live in a Bear Clan longhouse. And everything would go towards the mother because the females were so important, all right? Now, we talked about for a second why moms are important and women are important. Where did they get the clothes from? Where did they get the clothes from? Animals. Who hunted the animals?
The men.
The men. And well, think about around here. I want you to think about what animals the men would have hunted. Now think for a second. Just because there are animals here now doesn't mean they were here a long time. Some of the animals you might say, I say, no, they weren't here. The Europeans. But what were some animals? Birds?
Foxes.
Fox.
Wolves and bears.
Wolves and bear. Deer. Took yours.
Beaver.
Beaver.
Squirrels.
Squirrels. Rabbits.
Wild
Birds.
Fish.
Fish. Moose.
Coyotes.
Coyote. Turkeys. Eagles. Buffalo. We would think no, but some say there were some here. I don't. There might be. Deer. I want to show you some animal skins. I want you to raise your hand if you think you know what they are. I do a lot. Don't yell it out. But this is important to know the kind of things we hunted around here. And Mom had to make clothes out of them and food. What do you think this one is? Raise your hand. No, don't yell it out. What do you think? Coyote. This is a coyote skin. All right. And Dad would hunt it. Mom would bring it back. They'd have to skin it, and you get the meat. But she would also make clothes out of this. This is a coyote skin that Mom made into a winter hat. All right? Whole coyote is there. If you think about in the wintertime, it's like 20 or 30 below. and you're going to wear this hat, Mom would make this for you because moms were the best. They did all kinds of things. How about this one? Raise your hand. What do you think? Say again? No, good guess. No. 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 Beaver. Beaver skin. All right. Beavers were hugely important. In fact, there were wars between tribes. If a tribe came in and hunted beaver where I live, we could go to war because they were so important. We traded them. Someone mentioned earlier, we traded them with the Europeans. They took them back to London and made men's hats and gloves out of these. So that's that one. How about this one? You should be easy. Skunk. I wouldn't want to be on the skunk hunt, but maybe. How about this one? This is a little harder. This is in the weasel family, but it's not a weasel. Don't yell. Go ahead. This is a little harder. Go ahead. No. No, one more. It's mink. It's a mink. Okay? How about this one? Raise your hand. Way in the back. Yep. Perfect. Black bear. A little harder to hunt. All right. This hide right here is really, really tough. It would be tough to work with, to make clothes out of, and it's really rough. So probably they would be like blankets or robes that you would wear. So that would be the black bear. How about this one? Bring him up here. Right here. No, good guess. Say it again. Possum. Perfect. This is a possum skin. All right. How about this one? How about right here? Hold on. Go ahead. Good guess. Fox. It's a red fox. Good. How about this one? Also, it lives by the water. Go ahead. No, good guess. No, good guess. Say it again. This is an otter. Good job. Very good. How about these two are the same but different times of the year? What do you think? Right. Say again? No? Rabbit. Why one white? Why one brown? Raise your hand. What do you tell me you think?
Because they're different colors.
All right. Yes, there's a reason for different colors. What do you think? Good guess. Say again. What did you say? Predators. Because in the winter time, yes, he'd be safer. In the summertime, the color would protect him. So that's why. Good job. Predators would be why. These two are the same. These are really, really mean. I've got a few of these in the woods behind my house. You might not get this right off the bat. I'll give a couple of guesses. Go in the back. Say again. No. No. These are called fisher cats. These are fisher cats. These are really mean. All right. This little guy right here lives by the water. What? No. Good guess. It's a muskrat. It's a muskrat. Okay. How about this one? Wait. What? Raccoon? Good job. How about this one? This kind of helps you right here if you know anything about it. Way in the back? No, good guess. Say again? It's a badger. Good job. That's a badger. How about this one? This will help if I do this. And that. What is that? It's a lynx, a Canadian lynx. Another word might be a bobcat. Okay, so that's a Canadian lynx or a bobcat. And then this one, this is a little one, believe it or not. What is it? This is a wolf. This is a small wolf, and that's all I could afford. A full-size wolf is probably this big. All right, so they are very, very huge. And probably the most important one to us was this one. The most important one to Native people would be this one, which would be a what? What is it? No? Deer. Why would the deer be the most important to us? Why do you think? Most important to us. Why do you think? That's what their clothes are. And what else? There's clothes are made out of them? What? Yep. Some. Are there a few of them or a lot of them around? There's a lot of them around. Are they big enough where there's lots of meat? Yes, and lots of hide. And what you do is Mom would make clothes out of these. Now, they'd be great in the wintertime, but in the summertime, you don't want all this fur on it. So she's got to boil it in different things. She's got to take a stone scraping tool, and she's got to scrape all the fur off of this so that she ends up with just what we call buckskin. This is elk hide that had the fur taken off of it. And this is what Mom would make clothes out of. And this is a lot softer towards your skin. All right, she would make like shirts. She might make leggings for you. In fact, these are leggings she would make for the boys. They didn't have like pants like they would wear like a belt, and these leggings, if they're walking through the woods, they keep sticks from scraping them. Water would go off them pretty quickly. Don't forget your questions though, because I'll get them at the end. These are leggings she used to make, and she used to make all kinds of things, including these. What do you think these might be? These are native shoes. There's a word for native shoes. Moccasins. These are moccasins that are made out of elk hide. And everyone in the family would get moccasins Mom would make. You'd get one pair until they wore out. You didn't have multiple shoes in your closet like I do. And everybody in the family got moccasins. Everybody got moccasins, including the babies. All right? Now here's the thing. Remember back then, they didn't have the tools that we have now to make stuff. How do you think they would cut things? Or how do you think they would sew? That's an interesting question. What do you think? They would use knives, yes? What else? They might have. See, you got to poke holes in leather so you can sew. What do you think I might have used to poke holes with? Maybe. Sharpen sticks or sharpen bones. But then there's the whole idea of thread. They didn't have any thread. What do you think they used for thread back then? What do you think? Maybe. Thread? What? Go ahead. Spider webs might be, but they would break pretty easily.
The same thing as they were made out of.
They might have used leather themselves, yes. This is what we use now. This is called sinew, artificial sinew. But sinew is really muscle fiber from the animal. Muscle fiber, remember they used all parts of the animal. They would use muscle fiber, they would pull stretches, and it's really hard, the sinew that we use. And they didn't have, like this is a needle, a real needle that I use, but they didn't have needles back then. What do you think they would have used rather than a needle like this needle? Bone, awesome. They would have looked like this. These are bone needles. This is deer bone, this is buffalo bone. And there's a hole in the top like you would thread a needle. They would actually use needle and thread for that kind of a thing. All right? So that's what they would use there. Before I forget, you said the moms planted something. There were 3 things. What were the 3 things the mom planted? Say again? Yeah, what were the 3 crops? Good. What were the 3? Not fruits. Go ahead. Squash was one. Corn was the second one. What was the third one? Beans. Corn, beans, and squash. Together they were called something. What?
The 3 sisters.
3 sisters. We call them sustainers of life. We used to grow them all together in a mound. The corn would come up like this. The beans would go around the corn. And the big leaves of the squash would keep the weeds out. And there would be a mound here, like out in the woods and in a cleared area. Be all kinds of mounds. Not like farmers' land today. It was very, very neat. And the moms would be in charge of taking care of the crops. Now we talked about the moms for a second. They took care of the children, but they didn't have any daycares back then. What did they do with the kids? What do you think they do with the babies? What did they do with them?
Had them in the long house.
They would have kept them in the lot. But what happens if they had to go out? No, not then. Dads didn't take care of me then either. Go ahead.
The elders.
Sometimes, but they took them with them somehow. They actually carried them in what's called a cradle board. All right? Different size. When the baby got bigger, the cradle board would get bigger, but they would put them in here, and moms would actually carry them on their back into wherever they were doing their crops. I know this is going to sound funny, but if they found a tree with a very sturdy branch, they might hang him in the tree so when the baby would sway back and forth. They were safe. Everyone asked me if they're safe. They would be safe, but they would carry them in cradle boards like this. Okay? Now, if the moms did all of that, what did the dads do? What did the dads do? They took care of the animals. Good. What else did they do other than hunt animals?
They chopped down trees.
They chopped down trees. They what? Who built the longhouses? The dads did. Now, what else did they do?
They hunted the animals.
They hunted, yes.
They fished.
They fished, good.
They went to war.
They went to war. Other tribes sometimes, remember I told you about the Algonquins calling us rattlesnake people? Sometimes we went to war. And what do you think the weapons that Dad had to hunt and to go to, what were his weapons? Spear would be one, good. Rocks maybe?
They used to trade with the British for weapons and tools.
Well, okay, what else? Bows and arrows. The bows look like this. This is what we call an Iroquois Haudenosaunee longbow. This is made from hickory. This would be vine or sinew, and they would go out, they would hunt, they would carry this with them in the hunt. If they had bows, though, they had to have what? They'd have to have arrows, right? So our arrows would have been like this. This is a modern tip arrow that I use when I do archery. This is a stone tipped arrow. This is a bone tipped arrow. And you notice I use this sinew here to wrap them, to keep them securely on there. So sinew had a lot of purposes. And then they had feathers on the other end. Why do you need feathers on an arrow? Why? Yes?
To help it like go through the air.
Yes, there's one word I'm looking for.
To help it glide.
Yes?
The cleanse.
Yes?
To mark its climb.
Sometimes they did, but to go through the arrow straight. If I didn't have feathers on this arrow and I shot it in my bow, it would go like this. All right? I used to make rockets with my 6th graders, and if I didn't put the fins on correctly, the rockets went all over the place. Almost killed people. That's why they made me retire. No, that's not why. But they had to have, so they had feathers on the top, and the feathers came from birds. So the bows and arrows were all part of what Dad would use. And when they would carry them, this is something they might have carried them in. This is like my favorite because it looks so cool. All right, this is actually blue fox fur. But the reality from history, probably they didn't use these. They most likely used these because this is made from what? This is made from wood. We were the Eastern Woodlands Indians. So they had this. If you had 40 men in a tribe to go out and hunt 40 foxes, for that would be a waste. You couldn't do it. So they probably most likely carried these in the woods. They would have their arrows with them. That's probably what they did. What other tools or weapons do you think, other than a bow and arrow, do you think they had? What do you think? Say again? Maybe an axe. Maybe something along this line here. It could be a hammer. It could be an axe. It was simply stone and wood and leather. All right? Could be for whatever you used it for. This is an actual axe head we found at a site that's probably a couple thousand years old. They actually used this like this, and they would attach them. So it was before the Europeans came. It was stone and bone. What other tools do you think they had other than axes that they might have used? What? Spears? Something else. What do you think? Maybe? How about what? Maybe? How about a knife? Right? I carry a kind of a knife here. They used to call them neck knife. It's too small from what they used to carry it. But their knives were actually made from stone and antler. They would take this stone here. They would chip out everything, and it's called flint knapping when they would chip this out. And this is antler here. And this would be their knife that they would carry around their neck, a neck knife, because they didn't have pockets. Problem is, what happens if I were to drop this on this floor? What might happen? It could break, which is exactly what happened a couple weeks ago. Here's my knife. Let's say I was a man working on a knife. It might take me weeks to make this. If I dropped it, it would break. Is it any good to me now? Just throw it aside. Now, when the Europeans came, they brought stuff with them that we hadn't seen before that was way better than this. What do you think Europeans brought that was way better than this? A metal knife that looked like this. Is this going to break when I drop it? Is it going to be a lot sharper than my other one?
Yes.
Now, if the Europeans had this knife, what did I have, do you think, that I could trade with them to get one of these? What do you think? All this stuff down here, all the skins that I have, we traded with the Europeans to get stuff. That's how the trade began. We had something they wanted and vice versa. So we traded for a knife like this. Also, let's think back for a second. If mom's going to cook supper, she doesn't have pots and pans like we have now. What do you think they used back then? Possibly.
Like the mothers would leave like baskets.
Maybe baskets. Couldn't put them in the fire though, but they would carry those. What else?
They will use clay.
Clay pots, exactly what it would. They would have clay. This is an Iroquois Haudenosaunee style clay pot that they would put over a fire like this, and they would put like meat or vegetables and make like a stew out of this. But then again, when the Europeans came, they brought something better than that for mom to use. What do you think it might have been? Say again?
A cauldron.
Yeah, sort of like that. Almost something like this. What's this made out of? Made out of iron. Is it gonna break if I drop it? No. And if my wife, I'm a little clumsy as a husband, I probably would have dropped about 9 of those by now. What would she say? You got to get me one of these. I'm willing to trade whatever you got there to get one. Doesn't sound like much, but this is a huge change in how we lived back then. When the Europeans brought stuff, they brought this kind of stuff with them. All right? Now, let's go back for a second. Boy, time goes so fast. Did they play any games back then? What do you think their main game was back then, Iroquois people? What? Lacrosse. Lacrosse was our game. Let me slide through here, kids. These are lacrosse sticks. Lacrosse was a game we believe the Creator gave the native people. For a reason, it helped us get stronger. Sometimes we played lacrosse rather than going to war. Sometimes people got hurt or killed playing lacrosse, broken arms, concussions, all right? But the lacrosse sticks, this is like from the 1700s. This is one that I made a little bit more modern. But they didn't start out like this. They actually started out like this. This is from a hickory tree. We would cut a tree down in the wintertime. Anyone know, why would we cut them in the wintertime? There's a reason. Why in the wintertime? Say again? Maybe? They don't have any leaves on them. There's no little birds in them. We believe the tree is sleeping. So it's a safer time to cut. We cut them down, and they don't come in, we cut staves, but they don't come curved like this. We put it over a pot of boiling hot water, and all the steam comes in this, and it pretty easily bends around. And then we cut everything off to make it a lacrosse stick. Now, it's interesting. Remember I told you how important women were? Very, very important. We believe that women have what we call a special medicine. It's not like medicine you take. Medicine is a strength. That women have a strength that men don't have. Men have their own strength, but women have a powerful strength. And because they're givers of life, they have a special strength. And old-time native people will only let men play lacrosse. Women couldn't, not because they were bad, but because they were too strong. They believe that the women's strength would affect the lacrosse stick. It might make it weaker and not be used, so that the really old-timers would never let women play lacrosse. And again, not because they were bad. In fact, we have a national women's lacrosse team for Iroquois, and some of the girls that started playing on that, their clan mothers actually came to them and said, you shouldn't be doing that because it was so old a tradition. They still played, girls play today, but the old timers wouldn't do it. But lacrosse was hugely important. In fact, it was so important that when a baby boy was born, they would make them what's called a cradle stick. All right? My grandkids, boy and girl, both got lacrosse sticks from Grandpa. It would go in the cradle, and we believe that the connection with lacrosse and the Creator was there. That's why they have cradle sticks. Lacrosse was very, very important to them. Another game that they played was this. If you look at this kind of like this way, this is called a snow snake. They would drag a log in the snow in the wintertime and let it get really icy, and the men would have competitions. They would make their snow snake, and they would throw it as hard as they could in that trough, and when it went through the trough, it went through kind of like this, looked a little bit like a snake, and the men would play. Sometimes those snow snakes went as far as a quarter of a mile in competitions. They went a long, long way. Again, a game that women were not allowed to play because their strength as females affected the lacrosse stick. Even on the Onondaga Nation today, The really traditional people won't let women watch because even the strength of a female is too strong even if they just watch it. Again, it's nothing against females, it's your strength. So those were games. Someone mentioned wampum. Who can tell me what wampum is? What's wampum? What's wampum? It's a bead. Where does it come from? It comes from a shell. They come from, oh, here they are, sorry. One of these two shells. This is called a quahog shell. See the purple? That's very valuable wampum. This is called a whelk shell. They used to crush these and shape them into tiny little beads. Drill a hole in the bead so they could put a string. It took a long time. Sometimes they would only make 3 or 4 a day. That's how hard it was. But they would make these beads, and then the beads would go into strings like this. All right? Later on, the Europeans made wampum. This is machine-made wampum. They're all exactly the same. This is wampum from the late 1700s. They're all different. There's little ones, big ones, fat ones, skinny ones. And wampum meant something important. If you got a note with wampum, it meant something was important. Quick, yes?
It means that you need to come because they're having a meeting.
Yes, in fact, glad you said that. This right here is exactly what you're talking about. This is the wampum means of weeding. Every notch in this wood tells you how many days the meeting is going to be. This has got 10 notches, so in 10 days you come to a meeting. All right? Now every tribe had their wampum. This is Oneida wampum. This is Mohawk wampum, like for my grandfather. So if I walked into a village wearing a gastoy with 2 feathers up and 1 down, and carrying this wampum, they would know I was from Oneida. But the wampum also came in belts like this. It's not a belt like you would hold here. They call them belts because of their size. This is a replica. The real one is like this long and this wide. This is a story. This is from when the Dutch people met the native people in the 1600s. The Dutch said, "How about we be the father and you be the son?" And we said, "No, we don't like that at all. We want it to be more equal." So we made this wampum belt. What this purple line is the native canoe going down the river. This purple line is the Dutch ship going down the river. They're saying, we're not going to get into your boat and tell you what religion to have, how to act, and you don't do it to us. This is the original agreement between people that respect one another. This is still celebrated in the Treaty of Canandaigua every year. So that's wampum. We didn't have a lot of musical instruments. Out west they have flutes. We had water drums like this. Different levels of water in here. A lot of our dance are just water drums and beats. We also had rattles. This is just a bark rattle. Simple to make. But one I like the most is this one. It's called a steer horn rattle because we would cut sections out of this to get this. That would be our steer horn. When I was a 6th grade teacher, it almost killed me off, but I made these with all my students before they left. All my students went home with a steer horn rattle at the end of the year, and some of my kids are like, I've got grown kids, police officers, they said, "Mr. Phillips, I still have my steer horn rattle." So this is what they would have for rattles back then, okay? They didn't have a lot of medicines like we have today, plants and roots and things. We did have what's called sage, was one of the 4 sacred plants. There was sage, tobacco, sweetgrass, and cedar. Sage, if you were to get this like smoking, the smoke is supposed to cleanse the air, get the impurities out. It's called smudging. I have one of my employees will smudge my building. It smells like it's been on fire. But they smudge it. Sage gets the bad stuff out. And then we have this. It's called sweetgrass because it actually smells sweet. The smoke from sweetgrass brings the good things back in. So that was some of our medicine. Okay? Let's say that Mom's going to cook supper. She's got this clay pot. How's she going to make it hot? How is she going to make things hot? Good. How does she start the fire? We didn't have any matches. We didn't have any lighters back then. What did they do?
They sharpen wood together to make a fire.
All right. They rub stuff together, right?
Yeah.
There's a science word. When you rub something together to get heat, what is that? What's that word? It's called friction. Friction makes heat. I need a helper here. Who can help me? Can you help? Yeah, great answer. Come right up here, would you please? What's your name?
Diana.
Stay right over there, please. So I want to show you a couple things. Let's say I wanted to start a fire. First of all, I can't start a fire, so you're perfectly safe. So hold this in front of your friends like this. Remember we talked about friction makes heat, like rubbing your hands together in wintertime? Looks like a bow and arrow, but it's not. Think friction. I would do this. Whoops, do it again. I would put something down here that was flammable, like really dry leaves or dried moss, and I would do this. Nothing's going to happen. So I'm going to go like this, back and forth. On the bottom, friction. It's going to get warmer and warmer and warmer. Eventually, it's going to start to smoke. She's going to blow on it and maybe start into a fire. That's how this, a simple tool without matches or lighters. Don't go away, I got one more thing. There's another tool that Dad would have used. I'm not as good at this, but what tool do you think this is? Look at it carefully. What tool do you think this might be? What? Loud? No, good guess. Look right here. Does that help you? What? No, good guess. What? It's a drill. It's exactly what it is. All right? I'm hoping I can do this well. It goes back and forth. It winds up, it unwinds, it winds up and unwinds without any electricity. So Dad would use a drill maybe to drill holes in the bark on his longhouse. Thank you very much. So that was some tools that they used. How about this? The real one would be much bigger than this. What do you think? Say, no, it's not a teepee. Something Dad would use to get food. Say again? It's a fish trap. It would be bigger than this. They put it in the center of the stream. Fish would swim in. They don't swim backwards very well, and they would come out with fish. And along the same line, they would have this, which would be a, what do you think? It's a fish spear. At night, you might be by the water, hold a torch, fish come towards the light, and you'd be able to spear them. So that would be a fish spear. All right? How about this? What do you think?
It was used for lacrosse?
No, good guess. Kind of looks like that, but what do you think? Say again? No, good guess.
It's like a table.
No, something you use in the wintertime. Say it again. It's a snowshoe. You tie your feet on this and you can walk on top of the snow. That's a snowshoe. All right? Now, let's see, a couple more things and I'll get your questions. What do you think this might be? This, just so I can describe, this has a hole all the way through it. There's a hole here. There's a hole here. It should go like this. I'm not allowed to put them together unless I'm actually using them. What do you think this is? Look, everyone thinks a whistle. That's a good guess. What do you think? What? No, good guess. Night, good guess. Well, take the water off. It's a pipe. It's a medicine pipe. You would put like tobacco in here, and you would smoke. We don't call them peace pipes. That's a Hollywood term. Medicine pipe means there's something special going. Medicine could be tobacco is the most sacred medicine that we have. Okay, so that's that. I think I've got most everything I've covered. I'm watching time. Let me look. Oh, this lady is doing something. It's a tool that they use, and it would use this. This is corn. What do you think she might use this for? She's going to make flour. This is a corn pounder. She's going to put corn in there, and she's going to pound on this corn till she gets flour so she can make different kinds of breads. Okay, so that was a tool that they had. All right? Now, I know you've got to be out of here. Who remembers how to say, hello, Mr. Phillips, in the Oneida language? It's only 30 minutes ago. Nobody ever does, but go ahead. No, that's thank you, but that's Yahweh's thank you. How about hello? Say again? You're almost there. Saguli, Mr. Phillips. Say it. Saguli, Mr. Phillips. And goodbye is Nongiwa, Mr. Phillips. And what I have, well, let me get questions before I wrap it up. Any questions that you had that I forgot? Go ahead.
Why does the fish have 2 spears?
It's a way, cause one point makes it hard to catch a fish. 2, you got double the chance, and you can catch them in between. But that's a good question. Yes?
Corn is called maize, right?
Corn, they call corn maize, yes. Different tribes.
How did you guys eat the food?
Good question. They would carry, remember I told you that when the Europeans came, it changed how we looked? This is a friend of mine. When the Europeans came, he's wearing like half native stuff, half new. This is a shirt that he had. These are leather. He had a gun. But he would carry this bag right here. All right, and in that bag, which is this bag, to answer your question, how did he eat stuff? They would carry their own spoon. Or they might carry their own wooden bowl. It's not like all the disposable stuff that we have today. What do you think this is, by the way? What would this be in the bag? What do you think? It's okay if you don't know. What?
Whistle?
No, not a whistle. Something for his gun.
Some bullet?
No bullets, but good guess.
Is it like a bullet holder?
It holds something. What?
Gunpowder?
That's exactly what it is. It would hold gunpowder, all right? So they had lots of things to hold. So that's what they would use to carry. A couple more questions. What did I forget? What?
What do they use for, like, if they need a bandage if they got hurt?
A bandit, good question. They would use leaves from plants. They didn't have all the stuff we have today. So sometimes the simple stuff that we got hurt today might kill somebody. But they would use like a plant or a leaf to cover something up. Or moss, like from a tree, they would put rather than kind of freaks me out, but moss on a wound to help it heal. Yes?
Did they bake?
Did they bake?
Bathe.
Bathe? Yes. The people think they were dirty, but they were very, very important about keeping clean.
If they were out the water, how would they get clean water?
They always built the longhouses near streams. So there's a constant source of water. Yes?
What is the difference between all the clans?
Between what?
Between all the clans?
All the tribes?
No, all the clans.
Oh, all the clans. That's a longer story. If you go way back, the Creator created the clans by sending women into the woods, and the first animal they saw was their clan. But so there were 3 clans. There's 9 altogether. There's 3 air, 3 water, and 3 land clans. But there's really no difference in them other than it's like all your cousins would be a clan. All your cousins on your mom's side would be one clan. All your cousins on your dad's side would be another clan. It's all family. And technically, you're not supposed to marry in the same clan. If I'm Turtle Clan, I'm not supposed to marry a turtle because it would be a cousin. You have to marry a wolf or a bear. Yes, way in the back. Loud.
Didn't people like long ago use bolas things to throw at animals?
Like a lasso? Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
Is the Tree of Peace still where it was, Nancy?
The Tree of Peace is on Onondaga territory. Is it still there? We know roughly where it is, but I'm afraid if we said exactly where it was, there'd be billions of people going to see it. So we sort of know where it is. I'm Oneida, so it's on Onondaga territory, so I'm not as familiar with that as others would know.
When it was like the old times when younger Vikings were around, was the water cleaner then?
The water back then was a lot cleaner than it is now. Yeah, a lot cleaner. They didn't take a shower. It would be like a bath. There was no showers, but good question.
Because they built it next to streams, so have any floods happened?
Oh yeah. Did floods happen? Sure they did. And they would be a disaster. But they wouldn't be like right next to the stream. That would be a little ways off, because you would learn after a lot of years not to build your house so close to the stream. But that's a good question.
What do they use the bathroom?
The woods. Don't make it hard. You just go into the woods. Go ahead.
What type of soap do they use to wash the
Soap? I don't know if they used the soap. I can't think of anything that would be a soap. They're just plain water. Really, they might use like a mud to rub something off, but then they clean the mud off. But that's a good question. I never thought about that.
Is it true that the Haudenosaunee got diseases when they traded stuff with the British?
Oh yeah. The question is, did the Haudenosaunee get diseases when they traded? Diseases nearly wiped out the Haudenosaunee. Smallpox was the worst. There were stories I've read where people People went into villages and like everybody was dead because of diseases. We had no immunity to the simple stuff that we have today. There were no vaccines, but that's a great question. Almost wiped them out.
What kind of toys would they make for girls?
They would have corn. I don't have any corn husk dolls with me. They would have dolls, and kids back then are kids. Doesn't matter where you are in history. Kids are kids. You find ways to play. You make stuff up. You play tag. You play hide and seek. You beat your little brother up. Whatever you do that you do today, they did back then. But they have dolls. Our dolls today look more like this for ceremony. We didn't have clothes like this. This is what a girl would wear. It'd be a dress. This is a ribbon shirt. There would be a ribbon dress, and a skirt, and leggings underneath. All right? That's what they kind of had back then. Yes?
But most of the animal skins you did at the start, did you bring in real animal skins?
Those are all real, yeah. Yeah.
I know they brushed their teeth.
I think they used wood will get fibrous. It'll break apart as you chew on it. They didn't have toothbrushes like we have today, but they also didn't have the kind of food we eat today to decay their teeth. It was pretty natural. How we live is very different. Yes?
Did the boys hunt?
What's that?
Did the boys hunt?
Did the boys hunt? The boys hunted when they got old enough. Interesting question. Who do you think taught the boys? Who do you think taught the boys? The men. Which men?
The old men?
No, good guess.
Were they had
Hang on. Who taught them? Who taught the boys?
the dads?
We would think the dads. It was the mothers' brothers to keep it in the same clan. Isn't that interesting? The dads did teach some, but for the most of the knowledge, your mom's brother would teach the boys. It was to keep it the same. I always thought that was very interesting. Yes.
What is the mom and
That's always that question. Then it would go to the dad and his brothers. But that's a good question. Yes.
did diseases spread?
Did diseases spread? Yes. Killed hundreds and thousands. Yes.
When the unicorns lived next to the stream, like did turtles and fish come out, like and took some of their food?
That's possible. Fish certainly not. Turtles might have. I don't have. We made turtle rattles, but they're a sacred thing. I can't show those to you. There are some things I can't show you from tradition.
The most needed food out of the three needed food, isn't it corn?
Corn was the most important. Yeah, that was one of the three sisters, right? Yes. Yeah, lots and lots. I'm watching my time. Quick words. Can you say the word Zwananode? Zwananode. That's our word for read. I always big on reading. I'm going to give everyone a bookmark that has Zwananode. And hello is Saguli. Goodbye is Nongiwa. And yao is thank you. So I'm going to give you pencils and bookmarks. There should be over 100. Is that right? That should do. For that, so you have some remembrance of that. And I know you've got to get out, and my voice is just about gone. One more question. Go ahead. Did they have what? Toilets? The woods. You would go out in the woods. That's the classic question. Where'd they go to the bathroom? Last question. Did they? Say again? I still didn't hear you.
Do they have any that any disaster that's real?
Did you catch that? Disaster? Other disasters?
Natural disaster.
Oh, natural. Oh, everything we have today. Floods, fires. I'm not sure about earthquakes, but all the things, cold winters that went too long and they didn't have enough food. All right. I got to stop because you guys got to get back. So you're welcome. And teachers, wait a minute. Teachers, by the way, I don't say this unless I mean it. These kids were awesome. It's because you guys did a great job. So I'm sure you don't hear that enough, but it means so. Teachers, this is our native prayer. It's thanks to Creator for all the things in nature. There's a QR code that says it in Oneida for you, so there should be enough for everyone. And how many teachers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
What is the building that's near Onondaga Park?
Thank you.
And it has the purple and white symbol with more.
Oh, it might be an athletic center. I'm not. Is it like new?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's an athletic center. We built one in Ida just a couple of years ago. $62 million. It's monstrous. So anyway.
Let's give them another round of applause.
Okay. You're very welcome. Thank you. To you too. I'm going to give them back now. They're all yours. They're all yours. You're welcome. You're very welcome. Yep, you're welcome.